on this sensitive topic, we are joined by clinical psychologist and author Dr Keitumetse Mashego. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, are we seeing a growing prevalence with regards to intimate partner violence amongst same-sex partners?
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners. Unfortunately, that is what we're seeing. Research is showing that there is an increase in intimate relationships, the abuse, and all sorts of horrific stories coming through.
Right. And do we know why this prevalence is growing? And of course, it's a big concern amongst us as a community, but do we know why we are seeing more of this intimate partner violence?
I think firstly we need to understand what abuse is. Abuse is about power and control, and abusers project within them insecurities, low self-esteem, and unresolved issues. And they are triggered often by, it could be, whatever it is that they deem as peaceful, and whatever it is that they cannot tolerate or understand. So it becomes very difficult sometimes for them to actually handle whatever it is that they deem that their partner is doing or not doing. So it's more of just about the projection of whatever it is that is within them. Unfortunately, in our society, dealing with childhood traumas and past traumas is not a thing that's prioritized. So you get people who are acting out in this manner just because of the things that are lying below the surface within them.
I see you're also dealing with a little one right there. I know it's a Friday evening and they're seeking your attention, but I hope we will be able to hold through this conversation. We know that it has been framed, intimate partner violence, amongst the heterosexual partners, and it's something that seems as if the society sort of understands. Are we ignoring intimate partner violence when it comes to same-sex partners?
I think we sometimes, because it's something that society is not understanding, or they choose not to actually talk about the things that we don't want, that are important in our society, then it becomes something that we sweep under the rug. But I think all sorts of abuse for all genders in all types of relationships is important conversation to have. But there's a lot of stigma surrounding, same sex, but even with heterosexual relationships, there's still a lot of stigma. So there's still a lot of work to be done in order to actually unpack what goes, within this type of abuse. And with the same-sex partnerships, and we slowly getting to understand the underlying dynamics, because we also don't want to just conclude that it's similar to what goes on in the heterosexual relationships. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done to understand what actually prompts such type of behavior that leads often to homicides or even suicide sometimes.
So are we saying not enough research has been done when it comes to same-sex partners and intimate partner violence?
I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Yes, definitely, because I don't think the same sort of dynamics will be at play with same sex. But of course, there are overlapping dynamics. I'm not saying that they will be totally different, but I think it's important that we actually know what it is that prompts this type of behavior. Is it dynamics from childhood? Is it just the way in which the relationship develops in our society, whereby it's not always accepted? Is it about acceptance? Is it just about the personalities of the people in such relationships? So I think, yes, there is definitely a need to still go deeper to understand the dynamics, so that we don't just put an umbrella about the different types of abuse. But the bottom line is abuse is about the abuser trying to control or have power over their victim, and they use everything at all costs to gain power over their victim. And that is the underlying message about abuse that we need to also put out there, so that we also overcome it.
Do we have enough available resources and assistance for survivors who have gone through intimate partner violence, especially amongst same-sex partners? Because you do mention some of the societal stigma that still exists for them to go out and now want and seek help. Do we have enough resources for that?
Unfortunately, in South Africa, we're really struggling, even with the heterosexual relationships. You know, when someone reports, then sometimes they withdraw. Sometimes people are scared to actually report just because the system sometimes fails us. Now, with the same sex relationship, then it even elevates even more that stigma, just because, you know, we still, as I said, getting to understand and accept some of the things that happen within such relationships. But I think there's still a lot of stigma, unfortunately, and people are scared to report such because of the stigma and the misunderstanding when they do report.
Doc, do we know, with the little knowledge that we have, do we know which race is more prevalent? Do we know if this is happening more in rural or urban areas? Can we sort of give some demographics to this problem?
I think it's, as I said, because sometimes with abuse of any type, it's, there's underreporting, there's lack of reporting, or there's reporting that is delayed just because of the stigma surrounding reporting. So it's very honestly difficult to actually just say it's this type of race or this type of communities that are at higher risk. But I think it's just about whether people actually report this, but actually creating a system whereby people can be free to actually report and actually where they get assistance, because it doesn't help to report and as the story that you've read, that you know, the case seems to be, there's a lot of things at play there where justice might not be served. So it doesn't help that, you know, when we go and report, the system fails the people who report. So I think there's still a lot of systemic things that needs to be done to ensure that when people report that they actually get assistance.
And I was going to touch on that, Doc, in terms of the justice system. Do we think that more education needs to happen even on that front in order for people like Rakoloti to be able to have justice served, especially for his family who are now grieving a brother, a son, but nothing seems to be coming to the fore 3 years later?
Definitely, I think our system honestly fails, you know, abuse in all races, genders, and even ages, you know, even in the young ones as well. So I think it's very important that we actually take a look at the system in its entirety, because there's a lot of reporting that, you know, just goes haywire and justice is never served. And I think that's the issue that we actually need to address as a society, and government really needs to prioritize, because cases where people actually report, justice is not served. And it's not even because of lack of evidence, but it's actually just because of poor service from the justice system itself, whereby the evidence just goes missing, even if it was collected. So I think there's a lot of, accountability and governance issues that needs to be attended to, so that when people do report, that at least, even if, you know, the culprit is not caught, but you know, the family or whoever it is that's reporting, they feel like the system did not fail them. But half the time we're dealing with a failing system, which is very sad for the people who are most at risk or who go through this, because then they are at risk for even severe psychopathology, depression, anxiety, and the likes.
Most certainly. Lastly, Doc, what should we do to move away from being an intolerant nation, but move more towards being open-minded so that we can reduce some of these social ills?
I think we have to really do the work within. Yes, we're coming from previous generations where certain things were not accepted, but I think, you know, we need to really create a space where it's safe to be whoever it is that you choose to be, and also to not be judged just based on certain beliefs systems, because I think that's what also, you know, causes us to not actually support people who report such crimes. And I think it's actually very important to just do the work within to see why we're so intolerant. Is it because of our own experiences, misunderstanding, miscommunication? Just because it's something we do not understand doesn't mean that it's something that we should just outright reject and not, be open-minded about. And I think there's also the humanity part of it, that we know we're dealing with human beings in whatever form, shape, and size. And I think that's what we continually need to educate our people, that whenever there's a crime like this, or whenever there's injustice, that we're dealing with human beings. And it's not our place to actually, you know, make them be what it is that is acceptable to us, and be more open-minded about it. But I think a lot of education still needs to be done at all levels, starting, you know, from childhood, because such things, you know, we pass on from generation to generation, unaware and sometimes consciously. So I think that's where we need to actually do the work as humanity, as people.
Certainly. All right, Dr. Mashego, let us leave you and let you go to your little one. Thank you so much for your time this evening and for that input. That was clinical psychologist and author Dr. Keitumetse Mashego speaking to us there about intimate partner violence among same-sex partners.